I just want to make one thing clear. These videos are just for fun. Are we good? Cool. Let's have some fun. When High Guardian Spice first dropped, this undoubtedly became a prime example of how to write a bad show. But as I continued watching, I couldn't help but notice that some of the characters in the show are not bad, just severely underdeveloped. And Olive is the best example in this case, as I couldn't help but notice that she has the potential for being both a tragic and complex character. And if her character was fleshed out correctly, then I honestly believe she could be a great addition to the team. At least, I assume that's what they were going for. After all, I really did enjoy the setup the show had for Olive. You know, her being presented as a villain, but deep down, she doesn't want to be one. Maybe because, secretly, she's kind and capable of demonstrating compassion, or at least expressing a bit of remorse for what she has done. At least in the last episode. Therefore, instead of tearing the show apart, I've decided to try and fix some of the characters, or at least provide them with a more compelling presence in the show. But the goal is not to alter them to the point where they are unrecognizable, and to work with what has already been established. So, I'll try to do the best that I can. Plus, I'm going to be adding Smokeface to the conversation, considering that he is most associated with Olive, and we never really see him interact with anyone else that I'm aware of. Okay, there's Mandrake, but still. So, let's examine at how Olive and Smokeface are handled in the show. Alright, let's get started. Olive officially makes her visible presence known in episode 2 of Disorientation Day. You know, as a black cat sitting in a tree looking sinisterly at time. Holy crap, that rhymed. Anyway, as a form of foreshadowing, but, you know, there's kind of like a lack of subtlety. After that, she is seen in parts of the academy, just hanging out in her cat form, not paying rent, and possibly getting free food, until she makes her full physical appearance in the fall festival episodes, along with Smokeface, who seems to be delightfully devious. How interesting. And quite possibly pulling strings in the shadows like all good villains, as Olive seems to be tasked with being a spy until the tide shifts. During these fall festival episodes, she is tasked with taking out the girls and given a spark spell to do so. She ultimately gets overpowered and hides until Mandrake shows up. After this, Smokeface is still seen in the background acting as a diplomat until the final episode. And after this, he never appears ever again, not even in front of the Triumvirate. I know this doesn't seem like much, but let's be real, this is what actually goes on in the show. Of course, I could mention the time she read Rosemary's Diary, but Olive doesn't really utilize this information she comes across, and she only gives it to Mandrake, which, of course, you know, seems like a good plan for him to kill her, but we all know how that ends. So let's carefully make a little checklist of what we know. Olive in the show is a spy, a cat girl, in fact the only cat girl, a magic user and a fighter. No mention of family, has 2 cats hanging around her, possibly an advanced magic user, and of course, cheeky. While Smokeface, on the other hand, is possibly a demon, works with the Triumvirate, is a diplomat, can hand henchmen spells whenever they need it, and of course, devious. Again, this is not much to work with, and I'm only going off by their appearance and the dialogue that they use in the show. Let's move forward. Every beginning has an end, and every end has a beginning. So let's craft one up for Olive, and a small one for Smokeface as well, by using the hints and clues that were dropped in the show. In my version, Olive is going to be born to a single mother who loves her more than life itself. But on the downside, they're going to be poor and constantly struggling to make ends meet. But on the bright side, Olive will be depicted as street smart while not being afraid to help others in need by giving away her food or clothes. And as a result, this will cause her mom to worry about her well-being, as all good mothers would do. Sounds good? Awesome. Also, they're going to be living on the outskirts of which country? So why not? This will result in Olive's mother to start thinking of ways to bring in more income, which will lead her to networking with warlocks. And warlocks in my version will be rogue magic users who are shady and not afraid to cheat people. They can either be human, demon, or elf, either working solo or together in groups, maybe even acting like mercenaries or hitmen if they wish. Hey, why not? So let's flash forward a bit to when Olive is about to turn 12 or something, and she comes across an abandoned sick kitten. She will frantically attempt to save the little kitten by trying to use both old and new magic, but she will tragically fail, causing her to scoop up the kitten, run home, and confess to her mother about what just happened. The mother, of course, will ponder for a moment before getting an idea. She'll then take Olive to a warlock's house and politely ask him for help. The man will grin and pull out a spark spell that can save any creature from dying, but at the hidden cost of mindless subservience to whoever granted them that spark spell, because this spark spell is going to be crafted from demonic magic and not earth magic. So the mother will use the spark spell to miraculously save the little kitten, as the joyous miracle is short-lived. The moment will be interrupted as Olive's mother becomes a mindless drone to Smokeface, a creature who is so narcissistic that he views all physical creatures as beneath him. Olive, rightfully angry at what this man has done, will try and shove him to the ground, resulting in him getting furious at her that he sheds his human disguise. Olive, who is rightfully horrified, tries to escape, but the demon traps her and begins to think of a cruel way to punish her. He'll glance at the kitten and then back to Olive before he casts a smoky spell that will fuse the two creatures together, causing Olive to undergo a terrifying transformation of becoming a literal cat girl. Yes, her DNA and the cat's DNA are going to be fused together. When the smoke clears, Smokeface will laugh as he taunts Olive's altered appearance, stating how she has nowhere to run or hide, and Olive, only being a kid with no one around to aid her, has no choice but to follow Smokeface's every command. So now let's flash forward to the show's current timeline, where Olive has undergone intense magic training, and she one day gets tasked spying on the children at High Guardian Academy, under the belief that if she follows through on her duties, she and her mother will be set free. Sounds like a lot, right? But trust me, it's way better than nothing. And now that Olive has a backstory, it gives her more depth and dimension, including Smokeface, who is just going to be evil for the sake of it. You're probably wondering, why is Olive a cat girl? And my answer is, I don't know. I have no clue why Ray made Olive into a cat girl, other than it was a design choice? Because this is anime and cat girls are part of the genre? And yes, I'm well aware of how cat girls are part of the anime genre, but even then, there are works like Tokyo Mew Mew that gave the explanation that Ichigo, for example, her DNA is compatible with an endangered cat, thus making more sense of her cat girl design. But in High Guardian Spice, it just feels like they made Olive's design in reference to Tokyo Mew Mew and nothing else. But with my backstory for Olive, it gives the audience a more plausible explanation for her design. Not to mention, I'm adding a horrific twist to the catgirl trope, while demonstrating just how despicable certain characters can be. Not only that, Olive now has a reason on why she follows bad people. So now when somebody asks why Olive is a catgirl, I'll just say it's the result of Olive being punished by a twisted character, who is a villain, and that is what villains should do. And a good memorable villain should never be afraid to demonstrate to the audience a keen desire to commit acts of cruelty and immorality against innocent people. They should also not be weak and easily beaten. And maybe this could cause the audience to think a little bit more critically about what Rosebud did to her students on the first day of school. That transformation magic can easily be exploited by anyone. I guess this could probably be a reason why Olive has a natural love towards cats, seeing as she's surrounded by them. After all, if there was going to be a season 2, I can only assume that Olive was going to switch sides and work with the girls to save the world from the rot. Yeah, I kind of forgot about the rot. Again, I can only assume, as it looks like season 2 will never happen. However, I do have a harebrained theory about the show. And keep in mind, this is just my crazy little theory that when Ray and the crew originally worked on the show, they might have originally made 24 episodes but only released 12 because they wanted to see what the general reaction was going to be to the show. And you can obviously guess what happened during its release. Many people discussed and criticized the show for all the right reasons, but I have a feeling this might have caused Crunchyroll to shelve the rest of the episodes. And perhaps they are waiting until the heat dies down and then they'll probably release the rest. However, I could absolutely be wrong about this, and maybe there are only 12 episodes. But hey, if you like this idea, feel free to leave a comment, or better yet, let's hear your ideas. And maybe I'll make a follow-up to this video about Olive's future in the show. And that brings us to the end of this video. If there's a character that you would like to see discussed, well, pop a comment and I'll check it out. And with that, I'll see you next time.